Welcome to Theory of the Dollar, Dr. Jermaine Kimble. Thank you for joining us on the Chase the Ambition Network. And this episode is a little different. This is called I Skipped a Step. And what that is, essentially, when we did the first episode, this is my first podcast, and I was excited, started lining up guests and, jump right into interviewing about, helping encourage people to take the risk of becoming entrepreneurs, chasing a dream, figuring out what it is they want to do outside of their 9 to 5. But I gave you no context about who I am, about my background, any of that. I skipped a step. So, who I am and my background and why this is relevant to this particular line of business that I'm trying to jump into with encouraging others. Like I said, I'm Dr. Jermaine Kimble. So I have a doctorate in business administration. I'm originally from Queens, New York, and I relocated to Atlanta in 1994 for college, went to CAU, Clark Atlanta University. And from there, I, had plans of becoming an attorney and doing all these things. And, after college, I needed a break. I was burnt out from school, and I said to myself, I'll take a break, I'll get a job, and then I will go back to school. So I started working in banking as a compliance and fraud investigator. So what that is, all banks are regulated by a series of regulations that govern how they do business. And I'll get to why that's important in a little bit. So it was different. It was, not just how people committed fraud, but, the rules that banks were supposed to abide by kind of tied into what I learned about, how blacks were kept out of the American dream, kept away from it. One of the ways that we gain wealth is through property ownership. And, there were rules set in place that prevented us from owning homes. So to combat that, the government came up with these regulations. There's a host of them, but, one of them in particular was fair lending and how, banks are supposed to be governed in dealing with consumers. So I enjoyed it. And I worked in my first bank for several years and then moved from there to Equifax, where I was a director of compliance, overseeing how your credit information was protected. So with the bank and then with Equifax, I was laid off. They're, corporate restructuring. In the finance world, you hear that a lot. The company, it's no fault of your own. The company just decided to go another way. Basically, they're trying to save money, so they start cutting, the last people to come on board. From there, went to Bank of America, oversaw their compliance department, once again laid off, and I got tired of it. It felt like I had no control over my destiny. So I decided to branch out, to try to do this on my own. I was coming across a lot of businesses over the course of my work with them, with the larger companies that couldn't afford the big four audit companies to help them build out their compliance program. They couldn't afford the Deloittes or the KPMGs and so forth. So I figured that would be my niche. I would be the person that could be there for those smaller businesses to help them build out their programs, to help them respond to government inquiries if they did something wrong, help them respond to consumer complaints that could escalate to lawsuits. And I started my own consulting company. It was Kimble Consulting Services. And I operated that for, we're in 2024 now, so for about 8 years. And my sweet spot were the startups, the financial technology companies, think like the Affirms of the world or Ready Life or EarnUp, that, they had goals of helping those people who have been excluded from that portion of building, generational wealth, to help them build it. So I would serve as their compliance officer, or I'd help them navigate the laws that govern their business. So this took a lot of doing because, when you start your own business, there's a feast or famine that you have to deal with. Either you're extremely busy every day, business is constantly coming in, your phone is constantly ringing, or you're not, and you're trying to figure out where's my next meal coming from. So when you have a family, you can't have too many of those famine days because you have people that are relying on you. So it's definitely, it takes some nerve to take that leap to start your own business, but it's worth it. So like I said, I've been doing this for about 8 years, and in speaking with other entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs, the one thing they all have in common is the what if things go wrong. They don't want to take that chance because what if something bad happens? What if, I can't afford this bill this month or whatever the case may be. And that's definitely a valuable, or it's not valuable, excuse me. That is definitely a reasonable concern. But instead of thinking about the what if things go wrong, focus on the what if things go right. What are those things that you can be doing that you're already doing, you're already good at, that you can monetize? So that is where being what's called a subject matter expert comes into play, a SME. And what a SME is someone that corporations rely on to help them navigate a particular space. So you could be a SME in any number of things. And that is, for a consultant, the greatest sales pitch you have is, I have X amount of years of being a SME in this space. I can help you avoid these pitfalls. I can help you navigate if you fell into them. So in the financial space, if you fall into one of those pitfalls I've referenced, you can be faced with a lot of things, meaning the leadership of the company. Fines, lawsuits, jail, you name it, it can happen. A good example of that, and this goes back to what I was mentioning about fair lending. Wells Fargo, within the past couple of years, was fined almost nearly $1 billion, literally $993 million, something along those lines. And I'm doing this off the top of my head, but it was close to $1 billion for not issuing loans as they should across the board. So meaning I walk in, I apply for a loan, and I'm denied. Someone else walks in and they have the same financial profile as me, same credit score, same salary, same savings, all those things. But there are some differences I think you can pick up what I'm putting down, and they're approved. And, after digging into them, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, they found that Wells Fargo was blatantly disrespecting and not abiding by Fair Lending Act.
Wells Fargo will pay $3.7 billion in fines. The federal government accusing the bank of charging illegal fees and interest on loans. It also says the bank incorrectly applied overdraft fees and even incorrectly repossessed cars.
Small businesses, startups, they can't afford that kind of risk. So that's where I come in as a subject matter expert in banking compliance, in financial compliance. There are other examples. Navy Federal Credit Union, just this past year, they were discovered to be doing the same thing. 50% of all black applicants were denied. Meanwhile, white applicants with the similar background, similar financial standing were approved.
When they denied is when we came back and said, oh man, there's something else going on.
And what did you think that something else was?
Discrimination.
But it wasn't just Atandi. Thousands of other black applicants were also rejected. According to a CNN analysis of federal consumer protection data, last year, Navy Federal Credit Union only approved 48%. That's less than half of its black applicants for conventional home mortgages. White borrowers were approved more than 75% of the time. It's the biggest gap among the top 50 lenders.
Why is that happening? Even when the day where all these laws exist, this is still a factor. So that's where people like me and in my space come into play. We're the ones that help the businesses navigate, or if they're doing wrong, we show them what changes need to be instituted to put them on a better path. So what I want you to take away from that is, this is something I started fresh out of college. And I worked at it. That was my 9 to 5 for so long that when it came time for me to say, I want to try something, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, which a lot of us do when we want to be entrepreneurs, we try to figure out what's hot, what can I sell? Sell yourself. You've been doing your job for however long, you know more intricacies than someone else. Think about it like this. How many people watching this, hearing the sound of my voice, is the person that your manager comes to and says, hey, I need you to train the new guy? Because they recognize the value that you bring in the knowledge that you have. Sell that knowledge. That's what being a consultant is. You're selling the knowledge you've accumulated over the years from something you've been doing that you like the back of your hand. And the trickiest part of that is finding clients. And the method that I've used that's worked out pretty well for me has been LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a huge thing, and also find any conference that exists that is in your field. So if you're a retailer, find retail conferences. Vegas has a ton of them. If you're in cybersecurity, there are millions of those. Start showing up. Have your resume, have a landing page that you can send people to, have your business cards, and lead with what you've accomplished and what you can offer them. You give them a problem and show how you can fix the problem. And, in the startup space, in fintech, financial technology, the new companies pop up every day. Every day there's a new one in Silicon Valley that pops up. Some billionaire or some genius programmer has a great idea. They get, funding and they launch this business. That's how Uber came to be. That's how Affirm, Klarna, Snap Finance, all these companies that have seemed to pop up overnight, that's where they're coming from. And they need people to help them navigate. And that is the case across the board. You name a space, there are people that can use your skills to grow their business. Meanwhile, you're growing your own. So I would encourage you, the same way I was encouraged, that you can put your knowledge to good use for others. So that's me in a nutshell. I am a consultant. I, have a doctorate. I have too many kids. I have 3 kids, a 14, a 6, and a 2-year-old. And I lead the life that I didn't anticipate, but I'm grateful for having it because I took a chance. And I would tell anyone that's listening that you can do the same thing and you can live the life. You can have the time that you may not have now because you're dedicating so much of it making someone else rich. You can put that for yourself. So, and I think I know I touched on this in the first episode, that the theory of the dollar represents time and the dollar represents time, and how much time you're giving to someone else is money that could be in your pocket if you're giving it for yourself. So whatever that may be, whether it's you want to start a apparel business, you want to offer a service, you have a great idea on how to get started, you have a great idea but don't know how to get started, that's what this podcast is for. We're going to talk to people who have had great ideas and they got started and they're flourishing, or they're facing the same challenges that you are, and we're going to figure it out together. So I hope you stick with us on Chase the Ambition, and I look forward to all the different conversations we're going to have. In the future, we have a social media guru, content creator. We're going to have someone that can help you build out your sales funnels or expand your reach. We're going to have a CEO of a bank, of one of the few Black banks in existence. It's the CEO of a bank, of a fintech, of a movie production company. We have a lot of great people coming on. We have an attorney that we're going to talk to. Some of you may know him, Jeremy Robinson. So we have a lot of great things coming up that are really going to help you build your business out. So I look forward to it. I look forward to, interacting with you. Please like, share, comment, ask questions. Let's, make this an ongoing thing where you pose questions. We'll talk about it on the next episode. And let's all make some money. So again, Dr. Jermaine Kimble, thank you for hanging out with me. Catch us on Chase the Ambition, and look forward to future episodes.